Once upon a time, in a very poor village, there lived a newlywed couple. One day, the husband made a heartfelt proposal to his wife. "My love, I'm going to leave home and travel far away to find a job. I will work tirelessly until I can give you a better, more comfortable life. I don't know how long I'll be gone, but I ask just one thing. Wait for me. Stay faithful to me, as I will remain faithful to you, no matter how far I go." The next day, the young man set off on foot, walking for days until he found a wealthy landowner in need of a farmhand. He approached the man and offered his labor, and after a brief conversation, he was hired. But before starting, the young man made a special request. "Sir, I want to work for as long as I choose, and when the time comes for me to leave, I ask that you release me from my duties. I don't want to receive my wages in small payments. Instead, I ask you to save everything I earn in an account. When the day comes that I leave, you will give me all the money I've worked for." The landowner agreed, and so the young man worked tirelessly for 20 years, without vacations, without breaks. Even though he missed his wife terribly, he stayed, determined to secure a better future for them and the child they had always dreamed of having. After 2 decades, he finally approached his employer and said, "Sir, I'd like to collect my money now. I'm ready to go home." The landowner nodded. "Of course, we made a deal, and I will honor it. But before I give you your money, I have an offer for you." The young man listened carefully. "You can take your money and leave," the landowner continued. "Or you can take 3 pieces of advice from me instead. But if you choose the advice, you will leave with no money." Shocked, the young man went to his quarters that night, unable to sleep. He had spent 20 years working tirelessly, and now, his entire future rested on this decision. The thought of walking away from his hard-earned money was unbearable. But at the same time, he was deeply curious. What advice could be so valuable that his employer would offer it in exchange for his fortune? After days of wrestling with his thoughts, he finally made his choice. He returned to his employer and said, "I want the 3 pieces of advice." The landowner nodded. "If you take my advice, you will leave here with no money. Are you certain?" Without hesitation, the young man replied, "Yes, I want the advice." So, the landowner sat down and said, "First, never take shortcuts in life. The easy road often leads to danger, and it may cost you your life. Second, never let curiosity lead you into evil. Some things are better left unknown, because curiosity about the wrong things can be fatal. And third, never make important decisions when you're angry or in pain, because in those moments, you might choose something you'll regret forever." After hearing the advice, the landowner handed the man, who was no longer so young, 3 loaves of bread. "Take these," he said. "2 are for your journey, and the third, that one is for you to share with your wife when you finally reunite." The man nodded, his heart heavy with emotion. It had been 20 long years since he had last seen the woman he loved. As he began his journey home, he was lost in thought, wondering how much had changed in his absence. On the first day of his travels, he encountered a stranger who greeted him warmly. "Where are you headed?" the man asked. "I'm traveling a great distance," the man replied. "It will take me over 20 days on foot to reach my destination." The stranger nodded. "That's a long journey, my friend. But I know a shortcut that will get you there in just a few days." At first, the man was tempted. Who wouldn't want to get home sooner? But just as he was about to follow the stranger's advice, he remembered the first lesson his employer had taught him. Never take shortcuts in life. The easy road often leads to danger, and it may cost you your life. His gut told him to trust the advice, so he politely declined and stuck to his original path. Days later, he learned that the shortcut led straight into an ambush, where ruthless bandits waited for unsuspecting travelers. Many who took that path were robbed, and those who resisted were killed. Realizing how close he had come to losing everything, the man silently thanked his former employer for the wisdom he had given him. Relieved and grateful, he continued on his journey. After a long day of walking, he finally arrived at a small roadside inn. Exhausted, he paid for a night's stay, took a warm bath, and collapsed into bed. But in the middle of the night, he was jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream. His heart pounded as he leapt out of bed and rushed toward the door, ready to see what was happening. Just as he reached for the doorknob, another piece of advice echoed in his mind. Never let curiosity lead you into evil. Some things are better left unknown, because curiosity about the wrong things can be fatal. His hand froze. He took a deep breath, stepped back, and forced himself to return to bed, despite the lingering fear in his chest. At dawn, as he sipped his morning coffee, the innkeeper approached him. "Did you hear that scream last night?" the innkeeper asked. "Yes," the man replied. "And you weren't curious?" "No," the man said simply. The innkeeper smiled grimly. "You're the first guest to ever walk out of this place alive." A chill ran down the man's spine. "My son suffers from violent fits of madness," the innkeeper explained. "At night, he screams in agony. Every time a guest hears him and rushes out to help, my son, well, he reacts. And he kills them." The man's blood ran cold. He had come within inches of death, but his employer's advice had saved his life once again. Looking up at the sky, he closed his eyes and silently gave thanks. With renewed gratitude, he packed his things and set off once more toward home. As the days passed, his anticipation grew stronger. His heart pounded with excitement and anxiety. What if everything had changed? What if his wife had moved on? Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he finally saw it. Thin wisps of smoke curling up from the chimney of his little house. His home. He quickened his pace, but as he neared the house, something stopped him in his tracks. Hidden behind the trees, he could see the silhouette of his wife standing near the doorway. But she wasn't alone. In the dim light, he saw her gently stroking the hair of a young man, cradling his head with tenderness. A knife of betrayal stabbed through his heart. His hands clenched into fists, his vision blurred with rage. 20 years of loyalty. For this? He wanted to storm in, to scream, to make them both pay for his pain. Then, in the midst of his fury, the third lesson echoed in his mind. Never make decisions in moments of anger or pain. You may regret them when it's too late. His body trembled, but he forced himself to step back. Taking a deep breath, he sank to the ground beneath the stars. That night, he slept outside, wrestling with his emotions. By morning, with a clear mind, he made a decision. I won't harm my wife. Instead, I'll return to my employer and ask for my job back. But before I leave, I want her to know that I was faithful. With renewed determination, he walked to the front door and knocked. When his wife opened the door and saw him, she let out a gasp. Tears filled her eyes as she threw her arms around his neck. He stiffened, trying to push her away, but she held on tightly. I was faithful to you, he choked out. And you betrayed me. She pulled back, her face frozen in shock. What are you talking about? I have never betrayed you. I have waited for you for 20 years. Then who was that man in your arms last night? He demanded. A soft smile spread across her lips. That man, she whispered, is our son. His breath caught in his throat. When you left, she continued, I discovered I was pregnant. Our son is now 20 years old. His legs felt weak beneath him. He turned, and standing in the doorway was a young man with eyes that mirrored his own. For the first time, the man embraced his son, tears streaming down his face as he recounted his journey, the years of sacrifice, and the wisdom he had gained. As his wife prepared dinner, he sat with his family for the first time in 2 decades. And then, he remembered the third loaf of bread. With gratitude, he took it from his bag, said a prayer, and broke it open, only to gasp in astonishment. Inside the bread, neatly wrapped, was all the money he had earned over 20 years. Every coin, every piece of his hard work. His employer had never taken it from him. He had simply placed it where he knew the man would find it at the right moment. Tears of joy filled his eyes. He had everything he had dreamed of, a loving wife, a son, and the fruits of his labor. Many times, we believe shortcuts will help us reach our goals faster, but they can lead us to danger. Curiosity often pushes us toward things that aren't meant for us, and sometimes it can cost us dearly. And in moments of anger, we act on impulse, making decisions we later regret. Remember these 3 lessons, and above all, be grateful for life, for wisdom, and for the people who walk this journey with you. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.